My main purpose with this visit is to come here directly myself, to talk to people, to see on the ground, to meet and to listen. But also, of course, to pass a message. What we have been seeing in Europe the last 6 years is the lack of a Europeanized migration policy. And that means that member states at our external border have been under huge pressure. And especially some islands have been under huge pressure in the absence of a European solution. And this is what I would say, that this should not be acceptable. We need to Europeanize migration issue and to stand by each other and not leave any member state or island alone. We immediately also started to work with relocations to other member states, and that's going on almost every week. One plane, I think, was last week, and another one next. Now more than 3,300 migrants have been relocated to other member states from Greece and from the islands. We also stepped up on returns. And now, last year, even though we were in the middle of the pandemic, there were 2,500 that did part in a voluntary return scheme, and I think 3,500 something that Greece managed to force returns. So these are part. We are also helping protecting the borders, which is important. So we are doing concrete things, and now we are also would like to build the new reception facilities on the island, to make sure that migrants have adequate living conditions and that the local population have adequate living conditions. And when we presented the new Pact on Migration and Asylum, I did it together with Vice President Margrethe Skinas in September, we are addressing the shortcomings in the European migration system. One of the most important things is to avoid irregular departure. So that's why we have a very strong focus on the external dimension. That's also why me and Margrethe Skinas, our first week in office in December 2019, our first trip was to Athens, and from there we went to Ankara to talk to President Erdogan, because it's important that we address the root causes of migration and also through the whole migration route to prevent irregular departures.
So I'm optimistic that within April we will be able to launch a tender. We will follow the standard European Union procurement rules, which also you should anticipate at this size of the project, which means that the work will probably start early in the summer. Now, the exact date of completion cannot be exactly foreseen, but clearly we will not allow for a difficult winter ahead.
And there will also be fencing in the areas within the camps where the safe zones...
We proved in practice in 2020 that we were able to decongest substantially the islands, despite the above three limitations, and moved from 39,000 people in the 5 rigs to 12,000 people today, and from 41,000 people in the islands, including the stay accommodation, to 14,000. So we were able to mitigate the limitation I mentioned before, but also what is critical, and for the Med5 and for Greece is a key priority, is that we strengthen the external dimension and avoid ever experiencing again this level of irregular departures from a neighboring safe country.
The humanitarian and dignified way that the European Union...
We strongly deny that the Greek Coast Guard has been ever involved in pushbacks. Greece is fully adhering to international and European law, but at the same time we need to be clear that countries have borders and there are rules and regulations how the competent authorities must exercise and execute their constitutional obligation to protect the borders of the country. I understand that Frontex had a working group to examine a number of so-called allegations, and according to the report I received, there has been no breach of fundamental rights to the cases that have been examined.